Chapter 19. Jack. Jack sat in the groundsman's shed, leaning against the wall with his leg drawn up to rest his arm on, staring at the back of the old wardrobe. It was Wednesday morning and Lucy hadn't been at school the past 2 days. He'd wandered around hoping to catch someone gossiping about what had happened, but it looked like no one had been told. Or if they had, they weren't talking about it. Not even her friend Jasmine. Hopefully she'd be here today. He knew he wouldn't be able to talk to her, and she wouldn't be able to see or hear him, but at least he could see if she was okay. When he'd asked her to let him in Sunday morning, he hadn't known for certain if it'd work. The day he'd walked through Jasmine, he'd felt like he could have easily taken over her body. He'd never felt that before. Things were obviously different now. Although he was sure that taking over someone's body without their permission would only give him another sin to atone for. He already had far too many without adding more. Jack? His name was spoken softly, but he recognized the voice. Rising to his feet, he walked through the wardrobe and the rest of the clutter filling the groundsman's shed. He stopped out the front of the building, his eyes checking over Lucy. There was a dark bruise on her jaw and scratches and bruises visible on the rest of her body. "Are you here, Jack?" She remained silent a moment. "I don't suppose you could open the door or something and let me know if you're here." He wished he could ask her how she was and what had happened once the police had taken them away Sunday morning. "Jack?" She sounded uncertain. He stepped backwards through the locked door, trying to force it to open. The door stayed closed. Anger rushed through him. That blasted bird could have given him long enough to say goodbye properly. He stepped forward again and the door flew open. "Jack!" There was relief in her voice this time. She stepped inside, using her phone to shine the way. "It feels really odd talking to someone I can't see or hear." She slowly turned as if searching for him. "I wanted to say thank you. And let you know what happened." He followed her as she wove her way through the clutter and slipped between the wall and the old wardrobe. He watched her as she continued to stand there, shifting from one foot to the other. "Dylan is getting help and Justin is looking at time in jail." She smiled momentarily. "Leah ditched him." She sobered. "Mom and Dad weren't impressed. We're both grounded." Leah argued about it, because she doesn't think she should be grounded at 18. Mum said she shouldn't have needed to ground her. That she should have been more responsible. She fell silent again. "Are you still here?" She paused. "I looked up some old newspaper stories from when you died." When she fell silent and remained that way, Jack wished he could tell her to hurry up and tell him what she wanted to say. "I'm sorry. About everything that happened to you. About your mum. All of it." Again she fell silent. "I remembered what you said about missing Rose." She swung her school bag off her back and onto the floor, crouching in front of it to rummage inside. "I brought a picture of her for you. It's just a photocopy. I thought I could blue tack it to the wall." She looked around the space. "I wish you could tell me yes or no. I don't want to put it up if you don't want it." "Put the picture up, Lucy." He knew she couldn't hear him, but he couldn't stop himself from speaking the words. He moved to stand directly in front of her. "Please, Lucy." She held the picture up, and it was right in front of his eyes. He found himself staring at Rose's smiling face. Pain arrowed through him and he reached for the picture, wanting to touch it. "Jack? Are you still here?" "Yes." His hand brushed through the picture, unable to touch. He closed his eyes, tilting his head back as he took a deep breath. Opening his eyes, he was in time to see Lucy walk through him. She stopped, turning around to face him. Jack, put the picture up. Come on, Lucy. Again he reached for the picture. This time it moved slightly. Lucy grinned. I'll take that as a yes. She turned to face the wall, pressing blue tack into each corner before she put the picture up, just above her eye height. Turning, she stepped to the side, leaning against the wall. There's so much I want to tell you. Tanner dropped in to see me Monday afternoon when I didn't go to school. I told him what had happened. He couldn't ring me because my phone was broken in the fight. I only got a new one yesterday. Mum wouldn't let me go to school until I had one. She's also making Leah and me take self-defense classes. Even though he listened to what she had to say, he couldn't keep his eyes off Rose's picture. She doesn't want to let me out of her sight, and wanted to take time off work to look after me. It would have driven me crazy to have her hovering over me, 24/7. She fell silent. I wish I could see you one last time so I can thank you properly. I'm sorry life happened to you, as you put it. And I'm glad you were there so Dylan didn't end up killing me. Or whatever he'd planned to do, so I couldn't tell anyone. She fell silent long enough that Jack thought she might be finished. He dragged his eyes away from the picture to stare at her, stepping in front of her so he could gaze into the eyes that couldn't see him. I wish someone had been there to help you when you'd needed it. When she walked through him, he turned to watch her squeeze between the wall and the wardrobe. So do I, Lucy. So do I. This is the end of Plea of the Damned 1, Forgive Me Lucy by Avril Sabine. Text copyright 2015. All rights reserved. We hope you've enjoyed this audiobook. To learn more about Avril and her books, visit www.avrilsabine.com. Jack's story continues in Plea of the Damned 2, Forgive Me Aiden.